Hey guys, Jessica Gemstone here, and today's lesson we're going to learn how to make a stretchy string bracelet. First thing I'm going to do is take off my two bracelets. These we're going to look at the end of the video to show you how to hide knots in different ways. The first thing that we need to make our stretchy string bracelets is a good quality stretchy string. The type we're using today is a 0.8 millimeters, which is the size we recommend for most projects. The next item I'll be using is an E6000 glue. This glue is great for tying the knots at the end and holding it together, and it dries clear. The beads I've chosen today, I'm sticking with my amethyst theme here and doing some gorgeous banded amethyst beads. At the end of my bracelet today, I'm also going to use a tiny little crimp cover here to show you how to hide the knot and make it look like a bead. The two tools we'll be using today are a pair of needle nose pliers. This is optional and only needed if you'll be using the crimp cover. The second tool that I'll be using today is a pair of cutters. You could use a pair of scissors. All we need to do is be able to cut our stretchy string. So guys, for the purpose of this tutorial, I've changed over to a 1 millimeter stretchy string just so it's going to be easier to see it on camera. So about 2 inches from one of the sides, we're going to tie a knot. This will act as a stopper when we string the beads on. Generally, you want to try and tie about 2 knots on top of each other to make it a little bit thicker so it won't fall through the beads. Now the next part is the fun part, getting to design your bracelet. Today I am just going to use some amethyst beads and string up my design as just the amethyst, but if you ever wanted to use a board like this, these work out really well for designing and laying out different projects and seeing how they're going to look. If you don't have a bead board like this, you can just use a paper towel, a cloth, or any type of bath towel at home. So now guys, I'm just going to string up my bracelet. So I'm getting close to finishing up my bracelet here, so I'm going to try it on. The best way to do that so that beads don't fall over the floor is to keep your bracelet over top of the table at all times. I'm going to take my one hand here and firmly hold both strings and slide it around my wrist. I'm pretty happy with how this is fitting, so I'm going to keep my bracelet just like that. Now the next step is tying the knots. On this one side here, we have our little stopper knot. We don't want to use that when we're tying our overall knot. So I'm going to slide a few centimeters away from that knot. All we're going to do is tie a regular overhand knot. You want to just pull close to the beads, but you don't have to worry about pulling too tight. Our second knot, we're going to pull tighter and pulse. If you find that it's coming apart like this, then you just need to pull tighter. And then what I'll do sometimes is tie a third knot. So when you have tied your knots, try and stretch them apart, and if you can't see the two sides unraveling, then that means you tied it tight enough. The next step is to put a little bit of glue over top of this knot. If you've tied the knot tight enough, like we did, then you don't have to put glue on it. It's technically optional. So I'm going to open my glue here, and sometimes you'll have a little bit of dried pieces. That's okay. You want to use a new piece of glue. I'm going to use a little head pin and scrape off a little bit of dried glue at the top, and take a small amount, stretch this string apart and dab it over top of the knot. Once it's dry, we'll cut these two sides off and the glue will disappear. Once our glue has dried, we're going to cut these two pieces of string off with your cutters or scissors. You can go very close to the knot, but try not to cut the knot. The next step is also optional. Some people don't mind seeing the knot at the back of a bracelet, while as others want to try and hide it. So today we're using a silver crimp cover. They come in all different colors. I'm going to stretch apart my bracelet and take my crimp cover and slide it over top of this knot. Now this next step, you want to be very careful as you're pushing down with your pliers to not pinch or crimp the two sides of the stretchy string. So I'm slowly bending the crimp bead on either sides to create a round ball. This takes practice, guys, but I know you'll get it. So now, guys, we have this crimp cover on the back of a bracelet. It looks nice and finished, nice and simple, and this is one way to string up and finish off a stretchy string bracelet. Moving back to the two bracelets that we showed at the beginning of this video. This knot will be easily hid in between these wooden beads. These sandalwood beads have large holes, so all I have to do is pull slightly and the knot will pop inside one of the beads and you won't see it. This is one way that you can get rid of the knot and make it invisible. On this bracelet, the knot is clearly visible. It also has two long strings which are a bit too long, so let's cut those. It's completely optional to hide the knot. It's totally a personal preference. So if your knot is holding together like this one is, and you don't want to hide it, then your bracelet is also finished. I just want to take a minute to go over a couple of commonly asked questions. So number one, by far, is what size of stretchy string or how thick should the stretchy string be for my bracelet? So today we used 0.8 millimeters. This is by far my recommendation for most styles of bracelets. So 6mm beads, 8mm beads, and 10mm should all be used with the 0.8 millimeters. There is one size that's thinner than this. We have in store, it's called the 0.6 millimeter. That would be fine for 6mm beads, but honestly guys, if you can go a little bit thicker, you're gonna have a lot more strength with it, so try and go with the 0.8 when you can. The 0.6 millimeters should really only be used when you're dealing with freshwater beads, freshwater pearls, or anything that has a really, really small hole. The next size up is the 1mm size. Now this is also on a larger spool. We have two different spool sizes in store. The 1mm size you can use for something that's heavier. So if you're doing a whole gemstone bracelet out of 10mm beads and you're using garnet or pyrite, something like that, then this would be a better recommendation. If you're doing 10mm beads and it is out of wood, you don't necessarily need to go up to a 1mm. The next item we get asked about a lot is what type of glue should I use? So the E6000 glue, this is the only glue that we carry in the store, and that's because it's our favorite glue. It works for so many projects. It dries clear and it's flexible. You definitely want a glue that says it's flexible. The reason for that is when you're taking your bracelet and you're stretching it around a lot, you don't want to make that knot too hard because it's going to turn into a stress point, and that means it'll snap much easier. So try to steer clear of crazy glues, anything that dries super fast, and anything like nail polish, clear nail polish, it's not going to work the best for you. So E6000 or nothing. But again, if you've tied your knot properly, you don't need glue. A lot of people just do that because it makes you feel a little bit better about your project, but you definitely don't need it. We already went over how to hide the knot on a bracelet. Again, I don't really care too much about seeing the knot. It's definitely a personal preference. Some people really get bothered by seeing it. The stretchy string that we use all the time is clear, so you're not going to see it too much. But for certain styles, you can either hide it with a crimp cover like we showed you today, or you can use a large hole bead and hide it that way. The crimp covers we used today were 4mm in size. There are some that are smaller and there's some that are larger. If you're going to use a larger stretchy string like the 1mm here, then that's when you can bump your crimp cover up to the next size, which is a 6mm. But for the most part, the 4mm works great and it just looks nice and classy and it hides in the bracelet well, and that's a better size to use. If you're looking to sell your bracelet, sell your work, the sizes of wrists that are the most common would be about a 6.5 to 7.5 range. So if you're making things around 7 inches, that's a pretty good size for most standard people. And also you're going to find that people like to wear their bracelets on different parts of the wrist. Not everybody likes to wear it right in the center. Some people like theirs looser, and some people like them to roll up the wrist a little bit as well. But if you're looking to create bracelets and sell them, the average size of beads for an 8mm bracelet is about 22 to about 26 beads to make the standard size. My favorite part about stretchy string bracelets is that you really don't need many tools to make it. So today we use 2 tools, but technically you just need a pair of scissors. So stretchy string, scissors, and your beads, and you are off to the races. One last thing I want to show you guys is stretchy string is awesome because it's going to fit over any type of wrist, but try to roll your bracelet on. So if you want it to last longer and you want it to stay in its nice shape, then try not to stretch it super far. They're pretty stretchy, but overall you want to roll it on and off of your wrist. Also, try and keep it away from soaps. So if you're going to wash your hands, maybe roll up your bracelets. Try not to shower with it because honestly, guys, it's all chemicals. So over a while, that will erode the stretchy string because it is technically a type of plastic. So you don't want to do that. So remember to take your bracelets off when you shower or when you're washing your hands and just roll them up and roll them on and off of your wrist. So thank you everybody for watching. I hope you love this video. Give us a comment, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time.